apt location to host an EV conclave than this beautiful city. Before I begin, let me just introduce the organization that I represent. I head Guidance Tamil Nadu. For those of you, I'm not sure how many of you have heard of Guidance. Okay, that's just over 1/3 of the dignitaries. Guidance is an investment promotion agency for the state of Tamil Nadu. It is in fact one of India's oldest investment promotion agency, set up in 1992. And what do? We attract investments into the state of Tamil Nadu. Why was it started in 1992? Because till 1991, which is the pre-liberalization era, we never really needed the states to actively look for investments. By and large, it was regulated by the central government, and once the markets opened up, more and more states started attracting investment on their own. That's the significance of the 1991 reforms. And what exactly do we look at? We look at three verticals of investments. The first vertical are those companies looking to enter India for the first time. How do I pitch the state of Tamil Nadu as the most preferred destination in the country? We have had a fair amount of success in that front over the last 2-3 years. I'm sure all of you have been following the news in electronics, EV. Let me tell you, in a span of 2 months, 2 global OEMs have entered the state of Tamil Nadu. I don't think anywhere in the world 2 greenfield projects would have been announced back to back by 2 OEMs. The first one is Tata Motors, where for the first time a premium car will be manufactured in India, the Jaguar Land Rover, which is a matter of pride not just for the state but for the whole country, that the entire we have moved up the value chain on how we do manufacturing. The second is Vietnamese company Frost. I will come to the significance of why these 2 global OEMs or announcements of investments are very, very critical for the state and the country a little later. The second vertical that the guidance looks at are those companies in India but not in Tamil Nadu currently, which traditionally will include your large Indian corporate houses. We have not had a fair bit of presence of those. The classic example being Tamil Nadu never had a large presence of the Tata Group. But over the last 3 years, we've got 3 major arms of Tata expanding into the state of Tamil Nadu. Tata Power for solar photovoltaic manufacturing, Tata Electronics for the Apple iPhone, the massive plant that's coming up in Hosur area, which is likely to employ 40,000 people, one of the biggest electronics manufacturing plants that's coming up in the country. And third, Tata Motors. Though we are the auto capital, somehow Tatas have been eluding us for a while, and they managed to anchor the company a little away from Chennai in a place called Ranikhet. Third, probably the most important category that we look at are those companies which have trusted the state, trusted the government, trusted the beautiful state of Tamil Nadu, have been investing, reinvesting, and continue to grow into the state of Tamil Nadu. I think they are the most important clients. Many of you fall in that category, that you continue to have faith in the state and continue to invest in the state. So 3 buckets. One of those companies, global companies who are entering India for the first time. Those companies who are currently in India but not in Tamil Nadu. And third are those within the state of Tamil Nadu. This is the bracket under which Guidance Tamil Nadu looks at. Definitely, as far as news value is concerned, the first one takes up a lot of space in terms of visibility, and we've been doing extremely well on 2 particular sectors, which are automobile/EV and electronics. Now, where does it leave us on the EV front? Tamil Nadu government released the Tamil Nadu electric vehicle policy in March 2023. The Hon'ble Chief Minister, in the presence of several CEOs, launched the policy, and in the policy we had put a target of around 50,000 crores of Indian rupees was the likely investment that the policy was set to attract. And let me tell you, as we stand today, we have crossed the target. We are at 70,000 plus and more. And thanks to the Global Investors Meet, which many of you were part of, including Stellantis, many of the Hyundai signed a massive MOU of 20,000 crores of Indian rupees immediately after the launch, and then another 5,000 odd crores during the global investors meet. Pretty much every global OEM continues to invest in EV and future technical innovations.
This kind of participation, only a cricket match can attract in India. And to see all of you here together, I have no doubt that India is definitely going to be a leader for the EVs, not only in India, in terms of car sales, in terms of sales of EVs, but also for the exports of EVs and its components. So thank you everyone for joining us today. We are really delighted to be a part of this initiative by Franchise India. This is a fourth edition, second in Chennai, and we're delighted to be a lead partner for this event. See, today when we look at the new car buyers, at least in tier 1 cities, we see that close to 70% of the buyers are considering EVs as their next purchase. What does it tell you? What it tells us, and by the way, this is far more than the global average, which means that we are seeing an undercurrent in the buying behavior of the Indian consumers. What we are also seeing is the influx of more and more EV manufacturers, new products, evolution in technologies, and this coupled with the initiatives that the governments at the state and central level are taking, I have no doubts that India has a very bright future when it comes to EVs. However, it is also important to note that today, when the EV consumers, when they consider an EV, they still have the concerns which revolve around the charging infrastructure, the range anxieties, as well as the resale values of the cars that they buy. So what I would really urge all of us together, that in these 2 days, since all of us are here, let's deep dive together to find solutions which will help us in really speed rolling this EV boom in India. Today in my presentation, I will take you through Stellantis, our global strategy, where electrification is at the core of it, our initiatives in India with Citroen. By the way, Tamil Nadu is home to Citroen. We have a manufacturing plant here near Chennai in Thiru, and we've been here since 2017. And it's a delight to be here, working very closely. We have immense support of the local government. Mr. Vishnu is here, and we are really happy to be in Tamil Nadu, which is home to Citroen. So now I'll take you through the presentation. How supportive is the Tamil Nadu government for the industry, and I'm sure it is going to do a great deal of goodness to the evolution of EVs also in the state of Tamil Nadu. I'll share my views on the pivotal role EVs have started to play in the India's energy transition. Let me start with the global perspective on emerging EV ecosystem. The whole world is grappling with the global warming and climate change. As the last year, 2023, was the hottest year on the planet Earth, and besides, the environmental degradation which the temperature rise causes, it's a matter of record that every single degree rise in the temperature reduces impacts the GDP of the world by 10 to 12%. So that's the cause of adverse impact of the global warming. As per the statistical review of the World Energy Report, in the year 2022-23, the total energy consumption has grown to 12,000 million metric tons of oil equivalent in the world, which is causing huge amount of CO2 emissions to the extent of 40 gigatons every year. And transportation is also one of the major reasons for the CO2 emissions. It contributes to approximately 15% of the total emissions in the whole world. I think we have also to how do we tackle this CO2 emissions and the urban pollution. This is also on the top of the agenda of the various governments across the globe, and all the developed economies are incentivizing so that the energy transition towards the decarbonization can happen. And I can talk about some of the countries like United States, which has come out with uh, uh, the entire Inflation Reduction Act of US, wherein they have earmarked approximately $780 billion of the capex for to be spent on transition to the clean energy and the climate change. In UK, I was traveling actually last month, and I understood that the government of UK has mandated that from 2026 onwards, 20% of the vehicles produced by any of the ICE manufacturers also, ICE OEM also, have to be in the EV space to promote the and to push the adoption of EVs. In China, as you all know that they have been giving huge amount of subsidy over the last 10 to 15 years, more than $900 billion of subsidies have been given, and of course they are going to scale it down now since the EV adoption has picked up quite a bit, and approximately 38% of the four-wheelers in China are the EVs. All these factors are pushing up the adoption of EVs in the entire ecosystem, entire globally. Let me talk about the mobility and the EV penetration and touch some of the, I would say, the visible trends which we see globally. The first, in case of the short haul mobility, which is the mobility maybe less than 300 kilometers, and it's penetrating both intercity and intracity. It is it is witnessing huge the accelerated penetration of the EVs, and the early signs of, in case of the long haul mobility, as of now, of course, is that probably the transition fuel could be either LNG or hydrogen. But in case there is a disruptive, you know, a disruption happens in the space of battery technology, so that the heavy vehicles can get a longer range of approximately 1,000 kilometers. Probably in that case, the EVs also could be a potential replacement for the fossil fuels in case of the long haul mobility. Globally, EV penetration in the four-wheelers has already reached 20%, so that every 1 in 5 vehicles being sold globally is an EV as we speak today. This translates to approximately 14 million EV parks across the globe. This phenomenal growth, has happened is the outcome of some of the major factors, such as the fall in the battery prices. In the last few years, we have seen that the battery prices have dropped by approximately 15%, which has ultimately resulted in the reduction in the cost of the EV. Significant increase in the models of the EVs. I think that's one thing which attracts the customers. And globally, we have seen more than 500 models of EVs which have been launched by the various OEMs. And the third, of course, the policy support by the government. As I have talked about, multiple governments are stepping forward to make sure that more and more adoption of the EVs takes place. The penetration in the other segments of the vehicle is also has picked up quite a bit. The two-wheelers, it has reached more than 13%, and it's largely driven by the Asian countries, China, India, and some of the other countries in Asia. And as the buses, which is also going to be a big segment for the EV adoption, globally, of course, it's moving a little slow at around 3%, and the other light commercial vehicles also have picked up as far as the EV ecosystem is concerned. If I talk about the charging infrastructure, in the last year there has been an increase of 40% in the charge points across the globe, and it has reached a number of approximately 40 million in different parts of the world wherever the EV adoption has started. Few factors which have helped for acceleration of the EV adoption is that number one, the standardization of the charging system, and more or less large number of countries have adopted the CCS charging. This has emerged as the preferred choice of charging system, and only China is probably the country which is still preferring GBP. Approximately 80% reduction in the cost of the slow chargers, which we have witnessed over a period of last decade. And lastly, I would say that the digital platforms, I think those have made the life of EV customers much easier, locating the charger and reaching that particular location for charging their vehicle. In nutshell, as we speak, EVs have already displaced 3% of the total oil requirement, that is approximately 1.7 million barrels a day, with the replacement of EVs from the.
First of all, you will need green electricity, solar and uh, uh, wind-based electricity is certainly available. You then need to convert it to hydrogen. Electrolyzers are now getting made. The best electrolyzer that we have seen today gives you hydrogen at a total cost of $3 per kg. Now, by next year, companies like Ohmium are promising to get it to $2 per kg. But my worry is about this $2 per kg. The cost is taking into account the European and American interest cost of 3 to 4%, not the 10-11% that is prevalent in India. So $3, $2 may not be 200 rupees. Finally, it may be 300 rupees. So we have to worry about it. So that will give you green hydrogen. But then what do you have to do with green hydrogen? If you want to use an electric vehicle, first you have to compress it. And the compression results into a lot of losses. And then you have to transport the green hydrogen to some equivalent of petrol pump, hydrogen pumps. And that also will take a lot of energy. So finally a liquid hydrogen or a compressed hydrogen will be available at petrol pumps. And then you need to put it into vehicle, which probably they can load it. Then you will need a fuel. The final thing, they will convert it back to electricity. And today the fuel cells are available, except they are expensive. My own estimate, and this is an estimate, if you take today's electrolyzer, compression, transport, and today's fuel cell with Indian interest rate of 10%, the total cost of electricity will be 100 rupees per kilowatt hour. Remember, with solar, it is 2 rupees. When I put a battery and put it inside the battery, it becomes 10 rupees per kilowatt hour. But hydrogen today is 100 rupees per kilowatt hour. Where is it going to move? My feeling is 30 to 35 rupees per kilowatt hour will probably get in the next 4 months. But this will then compete with petrol cost, but still very expensive that compared to it. So that's a technology question, and I've given you the answer to the best of my ability. Yes. Yeah. I mean, accidents can happen, problems can take place with petrol. Remember, petrol vehicles are now there for 80 years. So yes, there are occasional, you will get occasional fire in batteries, but very, very occasional. Today it is safe. I've been driving electric vehicles for 8 to 10 years without any fear. And that's all I can say. And what's the infrastructure? That's all. Like the rest is ready.
Yeah, sir.
Yeah, quick question.